This is Thorin versus Loco, and on this episode, we are going to discuss. The title is going to be who will be better by the end of the spring split. SK Telecom, currently first place in the league in LCK. KT Rolster, currently second place. Now, just to give people the basic background, SK Telecom, obviously, the core of the team are the reigning world champions, and then they changed out the jungler and top laner, and they brought in Huni, formerly of Immortals and Fnatic, and they brought in Peanut, formerly of Rocks Tigers. Meanwhile, KT essentially only kept their jungler score, and they've just brought in superstar names from China, from other teams, including Rocks Tigers. So let's just start here, Loco. What's the first reason you want to give? Because on this side of the debate, who are you going to take out of those two?
Of course, going to take SKT. Like, just as a rule of thumb in League of Legends, you don't bet against SKT. They kept most of their core roster for, 2 to 3 years, Wolf, yep, Bang, and Faker. And I think that's huge. Like, Wolf, Bang, and Faker, they won Worlds multiple times. They played together with each other for 3 to 2 years, developed so much synergy, and they just know how to win. Like, I think between Goma, Faker, Wolf, and Bang, they've been in shitty situations where they were doing really fucking bad in spring. They've been in a situation where they've been on top of the world, and they just keep going and going and going. Their foundation is way too solid for, I feel like, KT to upset that. What's your point of view? I cannot imagine how you can see KT being better than SKT at the end of the split.
Okay, well, the simplest way to do this episode, is I'll pick a reason why I think KT will be better. We'll talk about that, and then you can pick a reason SKT, and we'll keep going until we got through the main points.
Okay.
So, first and foremost, I'll take a point in favor of KT Rolster, which is I actually think, player for player, they have a better roster of players.
I think that's ridiculous, but go ahead.
Okay, so we'll just go player by player. So they have Smeb. Smeb is actually a contender for the best top laner to ever play this game. I mean, for so long, he has been elite level. I think Huni has only shown us a little bit in LCK so far. We haven't even seen him play a playoff series. He's not a guy we've seen play many best of 5 series in his career. Smeb is absolutely one of the best top laners. He's one of the only players, when I look at the Rocks Tigers, where I don't think you can put almost any of the blame for them not winning the past couple of Worlds on him. And in fact, even most of the times they didn't win LCK, he was still fantastic. So I think Smeb, for me, that one's pretty clear. But we can go back and forth on that.
So Smeb's been under really good coaching staff for a while. He's been under Nofe, and then now he's under KT. I don't think KT has the best of the coaching staff, but he's been in the Korean scene playing against Koreans, playing with Korean staff, playing with Korean players. So he's had the best environment, and he's reached the very high. Huni, on the other hand, I think under Fnatic, he was under a great coaching staff with Daler, and the teammates around him were really good. But the environment, and also, I guess on Fnatic it was pretty decent. But last year on Immortals, the environment he was under and the players he had to play with and the coaching staff he was under were significantly behind what Smep had to work with. And then now Huni's working with the best coaching staff. He's getting better and better and working on his weaknesses. He's playing tanks. He's not as mistake prone as before. He's not as impatient as before. I see Huni being on an upswing, and I can't see Smep getting better than where he's at. And in current form, I still think Huni's a better player, and Huni's just going to get constantly better and better because he's under a newer environment, a better coaching staff, playing against better players. But I don't see any way Smeb can improve. It's not like he was in China or he was in NA or Europe.
Okay, but here's the thing: Smeb at the moment doesn't need to improve on his top form. His top form, I just said, is probably the best we've ever seen in the top lane. And he's in a brand new team right now. The difference is Huni came to an already pre-packaged team that's played with many different top laners, a lot of star top laners as well, and they just slotted him in the system. Smeb's coming to a team where he's playing with players he's never played with, and some of these guys, they were the star of their team. He comes from a team where he was the star. Depending on the meta, other people could be very good as well, but he was the number one star. He was the main carrier of that team, and a lot of it was focused around him. He's also playing for the first time in his career with someone who's a really intelligent jungler. The other
Hmm.
jungler, based around how the team wants to play, is based on what is in them in the meta. So these are all things that, in some senses, can be good for you. Yeah, better players, but it also that takes adaptation as well. So I think the idea that like Hooney's better right now, I think that's very debatable. I think they're both in new teams, and at the moment, here the difference is SK Telecom's better right now. I mean, we
Hmm.
can see that from the results. But the point is, we're talking about where they're going to be at the end of the split. So, okay, the Smeb one, we'll say that's contentious. Okay, you're saying Hooney's slightly better. Then we go to the jungle position. Now,
Hmm.
what's funny is people who don't watch a lot of LCK, I've noticed that Peanut, I actually think, gets overrated, which sounds weird because he's absolutely been one of the best junglers for like over a year now. And he even looked very promising when he first came in to Najin. But the problem with Peanut is, first of all, in the regular seasons, he has always been better than in the playoffs. And then secondly, he's someone where when he can play those really aggressive champions, yeah, he goes off. He's like a rush. Okay, if he pops off, he's gonna look fucking amazing. The difference is Score can play anything, and this guy
Hmm.
is so intelligent that like you just what it's like he doesn't even almost need mechanics. He obviously has enough to do what he wants to do, but you never look at Score and go, "It was his mechanics that won the game." To me, in that sense, I actually see Score as like the modern day Dandy. He's just doing everything flawlessly, but he's not the guy like a cow or something or doing some crazy outplay.
Hmm.
It's just he doesn't need to because he's in the right places. He's supporting his lanes. So I think actually for me the jungle position is one of the biggest mismatches in this in the two teams.
So purely versus like Score and Peanut, I do agree with you. Peanut can be one-dimensional. Peanut can be very on and off. Like on an on day, he's crazy good, and on off day, he's pretty fucking useless.
Yeah.
And Score, like I agree with like all the points you made. Very intelligent jungle, plays since forever, always in the right place, always knows what to do. Um, but it's called the Legend of the Bee in Korea. Like whenever SKT is in danger, the
Okay.
jungler whose name starts with B comes in and saves the day. It used to be
Okay.
Bengi, now it's
Okay.
Blank.
I don't know if you
Um,
could say that about Blank though, because Blank was the
okay.
one who needed the Legend of the Bee. He's the one who
Yeah, but
needed to
now
have his ass saved.
yeah, now but he's taken that role over
Okay.
with Bengi leaving the team. So Blank, I feel like actually does really well versus top tier junglers this split. Where he's come in, he reads the jungle pathing really well, and he knows what he needs to change, and he knows what to expect, and he does the right gank, and then he does what's needed. I think overall, like even like looking at it blank and peanut versus score, like score does have a lead, but when SKT is able to use them interchangeably, where they first use peanut and then they switch him blank after what they see goes wrong, or they tell blank, yo, this is like what you need to do, this is what their jungler is doing, and this is like the kind of pathing you need to do, and this is like the kind of role you need to fill on the team, and this is how you need to shot call, and this is how you need to communicate to the others. And Blank's been continuously getting better and better. He's played under Bengi, he's worked with the SKT coaching staff, he's an incredibly young player, and also how he plays is really good. So I was very, very fortunate for last World Finals to be able to sit behind the SKT side. And I was like, I sat pretty far away, but close enough where I could see their computer screens. Blank plays extremely fast. He switches and moves his computer screen extremely fast. And I love junglers that do that. They take in information really fast. And I feel like he has the right basis and the right coaching staff and the right players around him to get continuously better. Key point of my argument throughout like player versus player, SKT has players that are just going to get better and better, and KT, while their teamwork and their shot calling and a lot of things will clean up, SKT's early game will not be like as shitty as it was right now,
Wait a minute. Wait
going
a
into the
minute.
future.
SKT has players who are going to get better. You just said three of the players have been in the team for like 3 years. They're not getting better.
Yeah, they're not getting better, but the ones we just talked about, Huni, Blank, and even Peanut, I definitely
Okay.
think will get better.
Okay, here's the problem with that logic, though, is
Hmm.
that by using the same logic, I can say that 4 out of the 5 KT players can get better. Because, okay, Score actually hasn't really had a dip in form. He's still just looked really good anyway. But the
Hmm.
difference is the others have, in theory, all come to a brand new team. So, like, none of them have looked really bad, but they've all had moments where, they're still figuring out the system and how we're going to play. So they can get better in as much of their current form. And
No, I think
if they get to where they have been in the past, and we're not talking about 3 years ago, we're talking about even a year ago, the overall level, man for man, better than SK Telecoms.
I
We
think
haven't seen from Hooney this level that you're talking about yet. It's started to kind of tease.
I think their teamwork can get better, but and they can go back to their heights again. But like honestly, like what we're seeing individually from KT we might see a little bit better, but we're not gonna see much better. It's not like Smeb is in garbage form. It's not like Deft is in garbage form. It's not like or actually Pawn is in garbage form time to time. But like as they get inch closer and closer to their heights, like we already know what their heights are, and we've already seen it. And while it is really good, I feel like SKT can have higher ceiling with their players. Like, do you honestly see Smeb or like Pawn or Deft like getting much better than where they are at now? I can honestly and genuinely say that for Blank, Peanut, and Hooney, but I don't think you could say the same for the KT players I just mentioned.
No, but I mean the point I'm making is that they don't have to get a lot better. They only have to get to anywhere close to their good form.
Oh,
Whereas the players like Peanut and Hooney, they're still question marks. Like no one knows it. Like for all we know, what they've developed to now, that might be the development. You know, you can't know that they're going to go further than that. And in terms of saying that they won't get better, like here's the thing: everyone who's on KT is a legend already to some degree. I mean, maybe you could argue Paul isn't as much as he was like the star player or whatever, but in general, they're all like Hall of Fame type players.
yeah.
So it's not like they're going to improve overall level individually, but they will look better individually as the team gets better and they get their identity becomes coherent. To me, the big problem of this season, this is why actually I was confident to say that I do think KT will overcome SKT, who are the better team now, is because actually, I mean, I guess this kind of leads into another point, but we can do this now. I actually think that the key thing about KT is that they still haven't entirely figured out what is the identity of this team. Like, we have so many good players. Who is the focus around? How do we play this current macro style, etc.? Like these are some of the questions they haven't quite figured out. And some of the players, as I said, it'll sound weird because it's a positive to get better teammates. But actually, if you spent your whole career in your SMEB, you're not really used to having a jungler like Score. You're not really used to having a bot lane that's like, well, I mean, I guess the bot lane was pretty good in that team. You're not used to having a mid laner that actually could kill people. And meanwhile, go over to Score. He's very rarely ever had all his lanes could win. So, I mean, if you look at the whole team, it's like they almost have to figure out how to use the luxuries they have now that they never had in their past teams. So, okay, if we just keep going play by play so we can get the players done, I will say the one position that I absolutely will concede is obviously to SK Telecom's side is the mid lane. Because, I mean, even if Faker wasn't in his prime form, and he pretty much always is, it doesn't matter because historically he can have a dip in the season game to game and he always gets back in the playoffs. So I don't, but here's the key point